You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYPC.
WCYTV
Here on the Daily Signal.
Well, I remember making a bit of a prediction in the middle of the 2024 election cycle that we were getting down to the very end, the very last gasp of the 90s Labor Democrats. Because during the Bill Clinton age when he'd, get up on stage and play a little saxophone and talk about how much he liked fries, and he'd get out in front and say, "Hey there, girl, I want to be my White House intern." Well, good old Bill Clinton was the very last of the 90s Labor Democrats who suggested that kind of economic populism was something that Democrats were able to enjoy through things like economic protectionism. Not necessarily through kind of the far left socialism that the left embraced in the 60s, but the kind of a more moderate-faced Democratic Party. And then the left threw that away in favor of this identitarian political Marxism, in which case they decided to tell the youngest youths in their party that they were hopelessly oppressed by the capitalists, and they were oppressed by white people, and oppressed by Christians, and oppressed by the Jews, and that those groups were beating them down, man. And the way to revolt was to get out there and get violent, because violence is the language of the unheard, right? Isn't that what we heard during the Summer of Love and those mostly peaceful protests up in Kenosha and Minneapolis? So where does that take us now? Well, you see, the left decided they didn't really want people in middle America, in the Rust Belt, people who had been spurned by economic policies, whose jobs had moved to Mexico and to China, people who lost their homes or were unable to buy a home. They got screwed over by the housing crisis. And then after that, it was too late. And then now there are millennials that can't afford homes, not through any faults of their own. And now we're in a weird place in society where that moderate blue dog Democrat group has started voting in favor of Trump and Republican ideals because, mostly wisely, the Republican has created a large-scale coalition in which it's not just kind of the Tea Party movement and kind of just traditional conservatism or kind of corporate free market republicanism, both of which are good things to have, but a larger tent in its place. And that left the left, no pun intended, with just two groups. It left them with angry suburban white women with a interdisciplinary college degree in the arts, and the LGBTQ plus 2IA 8675309 Jenny call my number individuals. That was it. That was the last core groups that support the Democrat Party. And it turns out that those groups' views, like Queers for Palestine and eating the rich because the rich are out there everywhere and they're going to get you unless they're donating to me at my mansions in Vermont. Then I am allowed to be very much richer than you, me, Bernie Sanders. That turns out that group isn't exactly popular with most of America. That's why we call them 80-20 issues. 80% of the country believes that rioting in favor of Hamas is bad. I know, bold statements. 80% of the country believes dudes with their wangs hanging out shouldn't be changing in girls' locker rooms, shouldn't be competing in girls' sports. Most people in this country, again, 80% of the country believes, maybe the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua shouldn't be traipsing around the country because, hey, they don't have any criminal record in the United States. I'm sure that'll be fine. Hey, well, it's not very popular. And the approval rating for the Democrat Party on the inside of the Democrat Party is getting lower and lower and lower. And it's getting lower for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's because the Democrat Party has sided with all of this identity political nonsense, thinking that if they just keep preaching about how toxic masculinity from straight white Christian men is terrible and people who want to be monogamous, then someday their dreams will come true and we'll all sing Hamilton on Broadway. No, that ain't happening. So they're resorting to the greatest methodology that the left has used in the last century, almost to the date, and that would be violent socialist protesting. And first and foremost, I do want to show you guys If I can get the right B-roll clip pulled up here for those that are watching the live stream. This is from Politico. Democrats face historic discontent with their base. Right now, the Democrat Party is the lowest in its own party's approval rating. It is underwater with its own approval. Among self-identified Democrats, net approval rating of the Democrat Party is now in the disapproval space. That doesn't happen. Republicans are at an all-time high in approval with the Republican Party. Yeah, well, you get broad tent coalition and discussions are happening, and it turns out policies really aren't too extreme to either of the ends of the Republican Party. So, yeah, things appear to be going a little bit more swimmingly. And so what have you seen the left resort to? Well, they're really, really, really angry at Elon Musk. Why? Because Republicans have asserted for a very long time, that the federal government in all of its branches that the Democrats touched was an apparatus for waste, fraud, and abuse. And anywhere you looked in the federal government, if there was someone on the left, there was waste, there was fraud, and there was abuse. And so Elon Musk, who the left used to love because of the whole electric vehicle thing, and also it's kind of hard not to love him because he is a genius. I mean, he is. You can hate him as much as you'd like politically. The man is a very intelligent engineer. And, engineers are kind of weird people to begin with. So, if you're expecting social expertise from every engineer, you're looking in the wrong place, my friend. So they're very mad at Elon Musk because he came up with this Department of Government Efficiency, which is just a fancy term for, he came up with an auditing group. And so instead of using in-house auditor groups that suck, President Trump ran on the idea that we're going to bring in this outside guy who's run all of these successful businesses. And then what we're going to do is we're going to let him look through everything, kind of take a gander at all of the federal spending, the waste, the fraud, and the abuse, and see what he can recommend for cuts. And boy, did he find stuff, with USAID in specific. And the left lost their ever-loving candy-coated minds. They could not stand it, to the point that they started firebombing Tesla charging stations, Tesla dealerships. There are now, I should say, a couple of websites that openly dox, which means reveal the personal identification and location information of individuals who own Teslas, like the vehicles, which is not in any way, shape, or form a marker of a political identity. But that hasn't stopped these groups. By the way, the cursor, like the mouse cursor on the screen while you're moving around on some of these doxing websites, are Molotov cocktails. So just going straight to domestic terrorism. And in the meantime, Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are going around the country and on these political rallies to, provide any solutions. Well, yeah, actually, they are providing an answer. They're not solutions. They're saying we need to tax the rich. And we got to take down the oligarchy. And the open Marxist socialist line is back again, and it is becoming the actual foundation openly now, not just a fringe part, as many would claim on the media, of the entire Democrat Party. And it's pretty wild to behold. By the way, I should point out that the people at their rallies, as excited as they are maybe a little too excited about the left's current manner of opposing President Trump and Elon Musk.
And oligarchs will back his campaigns and bankroll those of his allies. They scratch his back, and he scratches theirs, and all of us.
Now, I've spoken at political rallies and events before in which people have said stupid things. And what you do, if it is a loud enough thing, especially if it gets a little bit of applause from, individuals in the room kind of on the fringe, what you do is you stop, you look at them, you say, no, and then you move on with the speech. But congressional Democrats aren't condemning the attacks on Tesla. And when someone in her rally shouts, bring back the guillotine, the old French revolutionary budding beginning of what would become the socialist and Marxist movements, well, she just kind of trots right along and keeps going as some people in the crowd begin to clap. Now, her rallies aren't perfect. Here's AOC giving some awkward advice.
We need a Democratic Party that fights harder for us today.
Considering that it is a party of stinky hot air, farting harder is a real strategy, not necessarily a good strategy. Radio crew, we're going to send you off to commercial land. We'll be back in a second. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Live stream crew, podcast crew have got something a little bit special for you here. Because we were talking about a lot of these domestic terror incidents, and they are domestic terror incidents. They are politically motivated acts of violence used to intimidate and change political policy. And they are done via excessively violent means, not just somebody keying a random car. Firebombing, Molotov cocktails are weapons of terrorism. They are, like, again, definitionally. So it also just so happens that a lot of the individuals doing the firebombing are part of the Democrat remaining base, the LGBTQ plus 2IA 3.14159 crew. You got the trans-looking individuals out here going to town, and people have pointed out, wow, there's a lot of, like, kind of trans terrorism going on. You know, this is just kind of disturbing. It seems like mentally unstable individuals make mentally unstable choices. And then CNN rushed out. They didn't like that. You're not allowed to say things like that. So they came out. They're going to fact check that Elon Musk. Hang on a second here.
Yeah, Musk has been retweeting posts saying things like 3 out of the 4 people arrested are trans or non-gender conforming. Now, there are claims circulating online that some of the people who have been arrested are trans or non-binary, and people are taking this off of social media accounts. We have not confirmed this ourselves.
They haven't confirmed that. Well, let's see, computer. Here, what do these individuals look like? Well, if we shuffle over to the next B-roll footage position here. Oh, 3 dudes in dresses, weirdly colored hair, and the she-they pronouns with the one guy. Oh, those don't look like the mentally healthy individuals to me. But hey, CNN says it's very not good, not nice in any way, shape, or form. That's very not good. Now, some Democrats haven't taken it to the extreme of, encouraging the violence. Some, like Tim Walz, are reveling in the decline of Elon Musk's stock with Tesla. That's no longer happening. As of the end of today, so if you're looking on this graph here, actually, can we make this just a smidge bigger for those that are watching the live stream here? Maybe just a tad. You can see that, yeah, there was a slightly low, under $230 per share on the stock for Elon Musk's Tesla there on the day that Tim Walz was making fun of it. It has completely climbed out of that hole and now is climbing even further because Tesla has grown immeasurably in the last couple of years, and it will continue to do so, at least in my estimation, because people don't understand that when you bring about huge acts of violence that are 80-20 issues, you galvanize support around the thing being unfairly, unnecessarily targeted. Naturally. And I said this yesterday, and I couldn't believe the words came out of my mouth, because if there was another vehicle that I would own other than my Toyota Corolla, which I've had since I had the last Toyota Corolla, it would be a small pickup truck. However, at this point, just to make this incredibly clear, these attacks make me want to go out and buy a Tesla. If anything else, just to spite those who think that they could, come up and cause problems without getting a small dose of, a small dose of leticillin, just the standard self-defense stuff that, one might find useful if they were driving a vehicle that was being targeted by domestic terrorists. So the left is just having an absolute ball. We'll talk a little bit later about Jasmine Crockett and her response to all of this, because she's just, if AOC's going a little bit further, Jasmine Crockett's going to sprint as hard as she can. But we're going to bring back the radio crew from commercial break and chat a little bit about some of the crime in the Democrat Party. Things ain't too hot over there either. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Be right back.
The Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Hey, remember during the election how the Democrats were talking about being the party of principles and justice and the rule of law. Yes, that glorious rule of law. I too remember. And all of the claims that Elon Musk was going to come in and he was going to steal a bunch of money and your personal information and give it to billionaires in a very corrupt fashion. I too am surprised that instead it appears that the Democrat Party and officials from all around the country in the Democrat Party have instead just decided to violate the very laws that they were accusing the right of violating. I know, always amazing how that works out. So Cori Bush's husband. Now you say, wait a minute, who is Cori Bush? Yes. She is one of the progressive squad members who used to be a member of Congress, a representative out of St. Louis. She's kind of like Jasmine Crockett. I don't know if I can really give you any discernible differences other than Crockett's in Texas and Cori Bush is in St. Louis. But, you know, I'm pretty sure all of the progressive squad members shared about 3 brain cells at any given time. So you're kind of hard to differentiate, to be fair. So Cori Bush's husband, Courtney Merritt's, has been charged with 2 counts of wire fraud. What kind of wire fraud is he guilty of? Well, according to the Department of Justice, Courtney Merritt's, Cori Bush's husband, obtained more than $20,000 by falsifying business records. He allegedly took advantage of the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP, and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Programs during COVID. Now, I seem to remember the left accusing Trump and Republicans of taking advantage of the COVID funding. Biden talked about that all the time. Oh, the Republicans are benefiting from the PPP, lasagna. And it appears, it just so happens, that the individuals illegally taking advantage of federal funding, I, for one, am shocked. I know that we just got done with Stacey Abrams being the recipient of a bunch of federal money she shouldn't have been the recipient of. I know old Senator Menendez over from Jersey, he took like solid gold bars from Egypt. But I mean, come on. It's not like Cori Bush like went on a bunch of ambiguous rants, just all angry and grumpy about corruption, saying that she would never do such a thing, huh?
I'm going to make sure I have security because I know I have had attempts on my life and I have too much work to do. There are too many people that need help right now for me to allow that. So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend $10 more on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police and put that money into social safety.
The wealthy should pay their fair share.
Yes, wealthy should pay their fair share.
What is a fair share? What percentage?
So you're saying that you're saying that they're paying their fair share is what you're saying.
No, I'm asking what percentage is a fair share?
Their fair share, the same. If a third of my money is going to taxes, then I think a third of their money should be going to taxes.
It does.
That wasn't her day to share the 3 brain cells. See, that's the thing. When you share them, sometimes somebody else is using them. And you saw the effects of lending someone else the very small amount of processing power that they can share at any given time. I would also like to point out that through all of these situations here, we haven't actually seen any of these individuals through their philanthropic or NGO, non-governmental organizations, actually doing anything to provide for the assistance of those in their districts who are in poverty. They go to Congress and their net worth goes whoosh. But then when it comes to actually sharing some of that, once they become some of the wealthy individuals, then maybe not. In Denver, the Denver mayor and his staff, according to CBS News Colorado, used encryption apps. Basically, there's an app called Signal, and it allows you to have encrypted conversations with other individuals to discuss the Trump illegal immigration policy and the migrant crisis. And then they set the Signal app to auto-delete the messages. Now, they also said that the Trump policies, a spokesman for the Denver mayor, these Trump immigration policies prompted the move. So let me explain what occurred here. So you had the mayor of Denver, Democrat Mike Johnston, and then 14 of his top advisors, appointees and lawyers. They nicknamed themselves the Strike Force in their little group chat. and they put it on Signal. Now, when you open up Signal, as I am doing right here now on the air, I'm just going to click a little pencil icon. I'll click New Group, and I'm just going to add a group here. Let's see. Producer Daniel is going to get added. Oh, he doesn't have Signal. Well, Daniel, that makes it really difficult to do this particular segment then, doesn't it? I'll just pick someone from the Daily Signal team. Virginia Allen. Perfect. Now, before I click the group, you'll notice, if those of you are watching here, there is this little thing that says disappearing messages, and it is automatically set to off. You have to choose to activate the disappearing messages, which means this: it is extremely unlikely that this Denver mayor and other members of the Denver mayor's office, advisors, appointees, and lawyers, did not set their conversational messages to delete. That didn't happen accidentally. That happened on purpose. You say, Tony, what's the big deal? Why do you care so much? Why are you making a big deal over this one? Well, because that's a felony. That is a felony. If you are an elected official in the state of Colorado, according to the Colorado Open Records Act, CORA, you ain't allowed to delete your messages. That's kind of a problem because, see, you can do things on personal communication devices that are illegal. Because we don't know if they said, well, we're going to follow the law no matter what, because that's the thing to do, and then we will try to make sure our citizens have all of the necessary resources and blah, 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 blah. We have no idea. All we know is that they were discussing a series of measures regarding the Trump illegal immigration policy, in which a lot of other cities around the country have refused to work with immigration customs and enforcement. In fact, several other representatives around the country have even given advice on how to avoid federal authorities, which is also a felony. So committing a felony to possibly hide maybe committing a felony, not intelligent, extremely, extremely stupid. Props to the CBS News Colorado team for getting this story out and not shuttling it away back into the distance to be discovered 10 years from now. We're going to send the radio crew over to commercial because when we get back, we got to talk international stuff and also just some unnecessary hot takes. Not ones that I'm particularly fond of. It's the Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, live stream crew, I made a solemn promise to you that we would talk a little bit about Jasmine Crockett and the weird statements that she chose to make. So there was this large group call called Taking Down Elon Musk or Taking Down Tesla, that kind of a thing. And I don't know what it is with Zoom calls being like the rallying cry for people these days. It's really weird. It's unnecessary. But there were, Hollywood actors that came in. We got to stop Elon from auditing the federal government spending. And then Jasmine Crockett gets out there. Now, Jasmine Crockett is someone who is definitely, without a doubt, she's aspiring to be the leader of the Democratic Party. Because right now, Chuck Schumer, he's out. People don't like him. Senator John Fetterman, he doesn't hate the Jews, so that's not allowed in the Democratic Party. So Josh Shapiro Fetterman out, not in the Democratic Party leadership. Who does that leave us with? AOC, because Bernie Sanders is about to die if, his multitude of socialist money ever, gives out. Then you've got AOC, who's young and, not very intelligent, but she does have a little bit of political acumen and knows when not to go too far, just a little bit. She does have a sliver of tact when she's not crying in the parking lot of a Border Patrol facility. Then you've got Jasmine Crockett, who shotguns a Mountain Dew and probably a 3 Mike's Hard Lemonades, and then just charges right into the center. And so here's Jasmine Crockett telling us something that I think you're all going to appreciate, what she wants for her birthday.
Politicians. So I'll make sure that I keep it short, but I am truly here for very selfish reasons. Starting with on March 29th, it's my birthday. And all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes. Listen, I have learned as I serve on the Doge Oversight Committee that there is only one language that the people that are in charge understand right now. And that language is money. And so I've been so proud to see us organize behind.
You mean like Cori Bush's husband? I'm sorry. Anyway, I want to see Elon Musk taken down. Right after the Luigi Mangione kid allegedly executed the United Healthcare CEO, and then right after all of these terrorism events. Remember when the right was accused of being like stochastically terrorists because they had the audacity to say really horrible, mean, evil, stinky things like girls don't have weenies. Remember that? That was stochastic terrorism. Remember when conservatives said, hey, Target, I got a question. Why are you selling toddler swimwear that you're calling tuck friendly in your Pride Month area? Why are you doing that? That's kind of weird. We're not going to shop there anymore. In fact, we're going to boycott the store. We're not going to shop there. And then the left said, oh, somebody called in a bomb threat or something, maybe. And then it turned out that like actually isn't what happened at all. And the left said, oh, that's stochastic terrorism. How could you do that? Boycotting, that entices terrorism. Now the left is out here, dropping firebombs in the language of, we're going to take him down. We're going to get, again, for what? For what? For exposing federal payment that is not at all what Americans signed up for, and also recommending to cabinet secretaries that some of the staff in that agency isn't worth keeping around. Oh no. Amazing. Up next, we're going to be looking at a few clips that the producers assure me are going to have are going to be a few unnecessary takes I'm going to have to deal with. So I figured you guys could suffer through it with me. It's the Tony Kinnett cast. We're going to be back in a second. Pick up the radio crew from commercial. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. And I am going to answer one question from the comments that I think is a pretty good question. So one individual asked, wait a minute, Jasmine Crockett is on the Department of Government Efficiency. She's on the DOGE committee? Yeah, she is. You say, well, wait, why is she on that committee? Well, because when Republicans set up committees, they appoint a number of Republicans and Democrats who want to be on the committee. So like you submit committee requests. So let's say, God forbid, I ran for public office and I was in Congress. Because of my background, I really want to be on the education committee. If I was ever a state senator in Indiana, again, God forbid, I would want to sit on the education committee because that's where my expertise is. Also, things related to science and medical, because, again, that's my background. Also, I would say I'd be probably decent on those committees because I've read both my state and federal constitution. I know, kind of an uncommon thing these days, but we all have things to brag about. Republicans usually appoint people to committees who want to be on those committees, the thing that we like to do. The Democrats, however, when they appoint people on committees like that January 6th committee, they took people who requested to be on the committee, like Representative, then now Senator Jim Banks of Indiana. And Nancy Pelosi was like, no. And then stuck Liz Cheney on the January 6th committee. So, yeah, it is true, actually, that when Republicans appoint committees, everyone's allowed to play. And then when Democrats appoint committees, it's incredibly loaded. Remember in yesterday's show when Chuck Schumer admitted that the federal judges they got appointed were there to be activists? Yeah, it's like that. Everything is just a political lever to those on the left. So let's talk a little bit about the other unnecessary hot takes from around the political sphere. Joy Reid, who is no longer on MSNBC. I know. I too am deprived emotionally of the greatness of Joy Reid on MSNBC. But now she's off in the podcast land, giving us a little bit of a history lesson and some military strategy. I didn't know Joy Reid knew anything about military strategy. Here you go.
Grampy Trump, let's talk. First of all, you can't make Canada the 51st state without going to war with them. And let me explain how that happened, how that worked out the last time we tried to go to war with Canada. They burned the White House to the ground in 1814 and won the war.
Canada did not win the war. Did they burn down the White House? Yeah, absolutely they did. Did they win the war? No. The best that you can come up with is that the United States and Canada, with the help of England, brought it to a draw. But anywho, again, that Joy Reid doesn't exactly think.
Canada beat us in the War of 1812. They probably liked their chances against us. We're not going to beat them in a war because we have never been able to do that. You'd have to occupy a country that is equivalent of the size of the United States, in which the top 2/3 of it is uninhabited, frozen forest land.
I love it when people make points in like an argument that go against the points that they had. First of all, the reason that countries with vast expanses of uninhabitable wasteland are difficult to take down is because the citizenry is usually already armed and is able to fight a guerrilla war from the hills, from the trees, from the rocks and mountains. So that isn't the case with Canada. Their citizenry is not armed. Lots of laws against that. So that would be number one. Number two, Canada is comparable geographically to the size of the United States. Population-wise, no. Military-wise, no. Military equipment and infrastructure-wise, no. Making a big deal about this, though, making this is where you're going to get Trump is on the U.S.-Canada thing. Okay. I mean, yeah, this is clearly what everybody's like worrying about right now. I mean, I know there was this one Canadian parliamentarian who was like, that's an act of war to call us the 51st state. Shut up, Canuck. Nobody cares. Trump's being bombastic right now. We'll see what happens here in a month regarding the tariff policy. But the bleeding and the whining because we're not, 3 inches up the rear end of every Canadian kissing their butts is just, no, I just don't care as much as everyone else does. I get, oh, they're our closest ally. Okay. Like Canada and the UK and the rest of the Western civilization powers have not spent the last 20 years criticizing every single thing that the United States did from the positions of their federal governments. I'm not impressed. The left has not figured out, though, that the way that you address really a lot of these things is just like calm down a bit and maybe not make politics while you're out in public every waking part of your life. And that was the best exemplified on a New York City subway, because God forbid anything happens in this country that isn't broadcast in grand theater on the New York City subways. So there's a guy that is wearing a Trump hat. He's wearing a MAGA hat. He's just got it there on his head. And of course, there's a middle-aged white lady that's got a problem with it, and she starts screaming at him. The rest of the subway car is just like, are you serious? Well, don't take my word for it. Check it out.
That's why he won. People like you. That's why he won. That is why he won, because of people like you.
So there is a black gentleman that calls out, that is why Trump won, because people like you are giving it to this kid just standing there in a Make America Great Again hat. Because this woman just standing there, she's like lecturing him, yeah, my soup is cold, let me talk to the manager. And then the subway car is like, dude, this is why Trump won, because you guys can't just like bring it down a little.
Stop it, bro, just like, chill, bro.
You're okay with that? He's a racist.
He's a racist, she says, pointing at him, pointing at the young individual who is either Hispanic or Native American. Ah, yes. Okay.
Can I be racist?
He's a racist. If you fucking voted for Trump, you're a racist. He's a racist.
How can I be racist? No, he's not. Leave him alone.
Fantastic. Allison, sorry for the heart attack there. I believe that clip was bleeped. So if you don't throw me to the dogs over that particular one, just let me know if the FCC kicks down the door in the next hour. If you could just leave the mic on. All right, Al. Let's move to...
I will let you know.
Oh, thanks. So you have a lot of clips. Sometimes, things slip very mildly through. Last but not leastly, in the unnecessariest hot takes of the century, King Charles III has reportedly offered the President of the United States, Donald Trump, associate membership in the British Commonwealth. And this has spawned all of the opinions of all time. So the Commonwealth is essentially a cultural collection of economic trading partners with the United Kingdom. It is comprised of over 50 different nations. 36 of these nations are independent republics who do not recognize King Charles III as a monarch or as their head of state. 5 of them are independent monarchies. They got their own dynasty going on. Nothing to do with King Charles. And then 15 of those member states do in fact recognize the blessed royal house of England as their ceremonial head of state. So why do I bring that up? Because there have been a group of individuals who have immediately come out and claimed, oh, this is terrible. This would be Trump putting us back in the UK. Oh, we're going to have a king. The United States was set to never have a king. Oh, no. And a bunch of bleating and whining. I'm a little surprised, at least so far, that no one has brought up, this is clearly King Charles trying to make the United States and Canada play nice, because Canada would be our closest neighbor who is a part of the British Commonwealth. Also, Trump is a huge fan of an Anglosphere, basically a group of culturally similar people. It would make us closer with India, which I think is a very good thing. I think if we're going to give China the middle finger properly, that it should be done via India. Another foreign policy conversation that we can have at another time. But the claim that the United States would suddenly become a part of the British Empire, no. Also, Trump, who does seem to be a fan of the idea of becoming like an associate honorary member of the Commonwealth, it's likely that would require some kind of Senate approval because it kind of dips into treaty territory, just a little, a smidgen. I just think that of all of the hot takes to be concerned about, of all of the hot takes that Allison has to hover her hand over the censor button for, I'm just not seeing the whole Commonwealth thing a part of it. I mean, this doesn't read to you as the President of the United States and King Charles trying to find an eventual way to calm things down with Canada. I don't know. I think it's funny. I guess everyone else is just a little bit too serious about certain things, like certain ladies on the New York subway.
That's why you won.
We're going to be back in a second and bring on Kurt Schlichter for a conversation. Now, I originally wanted to talk to Kurt about a new article that he wrote over at townhall.com called Now is Not the Time to Be Black-Pilled. It turned into a segment in which 2 crotchety old men just talk and make fun of random things. So if that's not your cup of tea, I promise you're not going to break my heart over, not wanting to stick around for that one over on the radio side. But we'll kind of fade the show out on that side over that. With the live stream, we'll stick around for a bit of bonus tonus. Radio crew, we'll see you after the commercial. Okay. Time for just a little bit, a smidgen of unnecessary hot takes on foreign policy. So, according to Reuters, who, when it comes to international reporting, Reuters is probably your best bet in the legacy media for some decent international reporting. They have a lot of teams that don't take foreign governments at face value. That's why Reuters is all right when it comes to a lot of international reporting. Stateside, but when international stuff, sometimes they do a pretty good job. Reuters is reporting that Putin, the president for life of Russia, is seeking U.S. recognition of 4 Ukrainian regions, Luhansk, Donetsk, I can't pronounce, Zaporizhzhia, Zipity-Duda, and Kherson, along with Crimea as part of Russia. So Russia has taken some territory of Ukraine, and they have mostly pushed Ukraine out of the small section of Kursk along northern Ukraine and the most southwestern portion of Russia that Ukraine was able to inch into a little bit. So reportedly, Putin is saying that he wants the United States to say Ukraine has now given up these lands, and now those are Russian lands, Luhansk, Donetsk, Zipity-Duda, and Kherson. as long as Crimea to be a part of Russia. Now, he says he's offering a deal of recognition like this in the near future to suggest that the Russians would officially announce Odessa and the rest of Ukrainian territory as part of Ukraine, which is whatever. Eastern Europeans, the Russians, all of them, when it comes to foreign policy, not exactly trustworthy. I'm just going to throw that one right out there. The Kremlin has said that Putin and Trump did not discuss naming and securing of recognition of territories in their recent call. But supposedly, Putin did raise the issue of Ukraine at a closed-door meeting with Russian business leaders, which is definitely how Reuters got access to that particular bit of information. What does this mean? There are a lot of people who are suggesting that Donald Trump is going to Will Chamberlain Ukraine over to Russia. And this is it's just like the 30s, or Neville Chamberlain, no, Will Chamberlain. He's going to Neville Chamberlain the Ukrainian territories over to Russia. Not quite the case. Not exactly what is happening here. I think that we've gotten into a microcausal, instant headline situation when we're talking about foreign policy, in which every time a new headline comes because of a new foreign leader statement, the entire country just goes berserk. Oh, the foreign policy's changed. Oh, it's terrible. Oh, we've got to do all of this, et cetera, and on and on and on. Amen. The problem is that foreign policy, especially when it comes to the negotiation of the beginnings and the ends of conflicts or the beginning of new policy, those happen over a lot of statements over a large period of time. So don't take Putin's word for it. Don't take Zelensky's word for it. Don't take statements made by Trump right out in front of the public as, this is the new foreign policy of the United States right here. That's not how this works. It's never worked that way in human history. So pump the brakes, wait a second, and it's very likely that Ukraine is going to have to give up some territory to the Russians because there's no way to get that territory back, period. There is none. I have yet to see the plan that does so. We'll be back in a second. We're going to bring on Kurt Schlichter for a rather novel conversation you won't want to miss. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. Great to be joined once again by the great Kurt Schlichter, author, lawyer, man of many annoyances in the world today. And it's because of those annoyances that you're a good writer. I'm just going to level it with you. The fact that you're very just had it up to here with the silliness on just every single network all the time. It's one of the reasons I read you. So when I saw that you had an article out telling people it's not the time to black pill, I knew we had to bring you on to talk to you about it. So by all means, take it away.
Well, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you reminding me I have to be FCC compliant. Because, with everything going on, man, this infantryman could get colorful.
Oh, I would never ask. Speaking of infantrymen, were you a betting man?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that we were still driving on that.
School, airborne school, infantry advanced course.
So you absolutely can get colorful. Well, we'll leave things alone from Sand Hill for a second and dive into the latest piece here. So why is this no time to black pill? First of all, for the older folks, what does black pill mean?
Well, black pill, for you crusty old bastards, kind of takes it from the Matrix a little. I remember when Morpheus says you take the blue pill or the red pill. If you take the red pill, you'll see the truth. If you take the blue pill, you'll be a Democrat. And so somebody else created the black pill, which is the one where you see that you're doomed and everybody's going to die. And, we're basically simply trying to slow the decline.
So like Dave Ramsey's face whenever someone tells him that he's like $20,000 in DoorDash debt.
Oh my gosh. Did you see the DoorDash? You can now, you can now get your like Chipotle burrito over time.
Yeah, you can pay it off in installments. I asked producer Lou to reach out to the Dave Ramsey team within exactly 30 seconds of my seeing that story. I was like, if there's ever been a time we can call in a favor and get Dave Ramsey on the show, it's now. So we're trying. We're trying.
I'm literally the other window I have on my thing is my Quicken right now, right? And the thought that I would undertake debt, which to me is right up there with herpes and fat chicks, is so mind-boggling. But who's the guy who's like, I don't have a lot of money. I could borrow some at about 15%. And finally get that carne asada burrito I've been dreaming of.
I just can't imagine paying installments for something that you no longer have in your hands.
Yes.
I mean, I have a hard enough time paying for, and my wife teases me about this, that I pay for things like concert tickets, and I hate it because it's an experience that I go and enjoy, and then once it's over, I no longer have what I spent the money on. Like,
but
I don't get to like
the memory.
Yeah, and the memory of it, sure.
There's certain room for that. I got Simple Minds tickets for God knows how much money in May.
Sure.
And I think that was the last time because I've cut alcohol out of my diet. I think that was the last time.
I was just so crotchety.
Yeah, I know, right? And I'm stuck at the same weight, which is the thing that's really ticking me. But no, there's room for having some experiences. I mean, I'm going to a foreign country this year. That'll be fun.
California.
America. But I mean, I lived in Europe for 4 years. Nothing I like more than people who've like visited London and Paris telling me about how the Europeans are. Love that.
It's like somebody visiting Chicago and telling you how the rest of the Midwest is.
Yeah, exactly. But I just see it's this mentality. No wonder our country's, $36 trillion in debt when you have guys out there, taking out a mortgage to get a taco. It's like, today I was like, hey, honey, where we're going to go out for lunch today? And she's like, how about I just make bacon and eggs? I'm like, yeah, we can do that. We've got bacon and eggs, and I just spent an ungodly amount of money to rebuild the downstairs and the kitchen. Yeah, maybe we'll have bacon and eggs here. And you know what? Her eggs are really good, and I like bacon. And I like not spending money.
You put it into a breakfast burrito, though, and you can pay for it along with your monthly car payments. I mean,
maybe I can go out and sell them on the street.
Yeah, no kidding. You peddle it. What's
yeah. Hey, man, I'm putting some money on the street. Yeah, I'm putting some bacon and eggs on the street.
I'm not a public flasher. I'm not selling Rolexes. I'm at the farmer's market.
I'm out there. I'm out there dealing tacos.
All right, so now that we've, taken a little bit of a jaunt, this is no time to blackpill, though. People are buying installment burritos. Everyone else is saying the economy is going to collapse. People are saying, I guess, according to the Canadian Prime Minister, that we committed acts of war. Why is this no time to blackpill?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the Canadian Prime Minister can go commit an act of love upon himself. I love these guys, man. Because it's, today they're waving the maple leaf flag, getting Tim Horton tattoos. Yay, Canada forever, man. And like you look at their Twitter feed from like a month ago, and it's like, our miserable country was built on the bones of genocided First Peoples.
First Peoples. Yes. That's my favorite alternate word for Native Americans. I do enjoy that one.
You mean freaking Indians?
Indians, yes.
Holy cow. I'm so done with this. Also, it's Bombay, not Mumbai.
And it's also Burma, not Myanmar.
Yes. And it will always be Upper Volta instead of Burkina Faso.
There we go.
Because I'm a classicist. But the other thing I love is the Canadians are like, well, now we're just going to reelect another liberal government that drove us into the ground.
That'll show you. We're going to shoot ourselves in the foot to spite the United States. Yes.
Yeah, cut off your nose to spite your igloo.
Yeah, exactly. My goodness. I do love that they got the guy to say one based thing which is that, Canada will always be for Canadians, as if they haven't been, apologizing for the on Inuit land or whatever. And
we're living on the Gungut people.
And the thing that the Canadians clapped for the loudest and the hardest was the only based thing that the, Mike Carnival or whatever his name is said. It really is. I love watching the blackpilling about the Canadian situation. Like, guys, we're getting rid of one of our strongest allies. I'm like, dude, if this is one of our strongest allies, I'd sure hate to see what one of the weakest allies looks like.
Yeah, can you imagine going to a bar, right? You're going to a biker bar, and you're like, who am I going to take? Okay, I'll take the effeminate elf, and, from Canada. I'll take Horst from Germany. He'll hassle everybody about how we don't appreciate our national parks. Thank you.
Before buying more oil from Russia.
Oh, God. There's this. As many problems as we have, at least we're not freaking foreigners. All right?
I know.
Don't blackpill because you're American. You have the potential not to be a damn sissy. The foreigners have no such potential. My mom's mom, who is hard lady, right? She refused to let colon cancer kill her for 12 years, just out of sheer Scottish stubbornness. My mom once said, I don't want to go to Europe. All the good ones left. And I'm like, man, I come from such based genes.
Yeah. And it was, so actually, it's funny that you mentioned this. So when the last time that I was in Europe was in 2013, early 2013, and I was about 50 miles west of Munich. And so we just kind of got to Germany, and
that's it. There's some scenic things near there.
Yeah.
That really tell you about the truth about Germany.
But the bread and the bakeries and things was fantastic. It was delicious, local stuff. It was amazing. And I asked about a year ago, I wonder what happened to this one bakery that we went to. And I kid you not, Kurt, the couple that owned the bakery has emigrated to the United States.
That's beautiful. By the way, if you're outside of Munich, I highly recommend going to see Dachau. Which
that's where we went. Yep.
When we went was almost empty. You would think there'd be, busloads of German kids there, with the parents going, see this? We don't want this. No, empty. And I recently went to Paris, and I was expecting a bunch of snooty peers giving me grief. Everybody was actually quite lovely. The town looked very nice. Food was very good. I had a good time. I've worked with the French in the military. That's the definition of herding cats. They are great as long as they're doing exactly what they want to do.
Yeah,
but planning, coordinating an operation with the French, no, that's like trying to get an improv group in line.
The spirit of Charles de Gaulle lives on. Ugh.
Well, at least de Gaulle liked France.
Now that I'll give you.
Fun fact about de Gaulle, very hard guy, tough guy. He had a developmentally disabled daughter, and he would spend all his time with her and just adored her and loved her. And I was like, it's pretty based, hardcore on the outside.
There's something about
you got room for a little girl.
There's something about a leadership class that actually takes their kids around with them, and you can see at the same time that they're leading their country that they're pointing things out to their kid, and they're just raising the little midget running around. I mean, I like that. I do, and I don't care who it is. I enjoy it.
I don't have a beef with foreigners who put their country first. I think they should do that. It doesn't offend me anymore.
The idea of leading your country, isn't it? You're supposed to put those people
it
first.
offend me if they didn't. It's like when I would get really mad at bad lawyers who were doing a bad job for their clients, even when I was on the other side. I was like, that's just not right. Mm-hmm. You're not making arguments you should. I'm still going to win because I'm right. But you should be doing a better job for your client. It annoys me. So I don't get a lot of conservatives get mad at Zelensky. I don't get mad at Zelensky. Zelensky's the Ukrainian president. He should do what's best for Ukraine. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't, there's a problem. And I may not like that, but that's his job.
I'm annoyed. I don't find myself angry at Zelensky. I'm annoyed with Zelensky at times, especially because some of the mistakes that he's made are rather feel like elementary mistakes.
Yes.
Like, well, coming to the United States and acting like a child in the Oval Office is like, why make that mistake? Don't you realize you're screwing over your people?
The globalists.
Yeah.
And look, he's essentially the Bono of political leaders. Like, he had a couple good albums a long time ago, but everything he's done now has just been posing.
That's true.
Right? He's just unbearable now. But these European leaders, the thing that annoys me about that's not when France is going to stand up for France's what France wants. Okay, well, what do you think? What should you stand up for?
Right.
The problem is they don't believe that. They don't like their own people. They're a bunch of globalists.
They only bring up their own country's pride again to spite the United States. If they want to turn around and there's a scene in
for them. It's not, that's why I always had a grudging respect for the French doing what the French want to do. I don't have to like it, but at least they're not selling their own people out. But now they are. I mean, you look at these countries.
Yeah,
Germany's like
the migrant crisis, selling it out to there. That's the wildest thing. I mean, again, it's like what I think back to which book was it? Was it the one where Jackson? The one where your spy guy's in Germany and he's handed out.
That was Wildfire. Kelly
Wildfire
in Germany.
That's Kelly Turnbull. That's right. Yep. And like the migrant crisis had gotten so severe. And I flipped through a couple of pages of that the last time that I saw one of the headlines about the migrant crisis in Germany. And I thought, wow, this aged rather well.
Yes. By the way, I'm getting those all out on audiobook. You can get People's Republic on Audible, and you can get Indian Country so far, Audible and Amazon, for you people who like to listen to them.
The other Hoosier, I'll have to grab Indian Country. I mean, just for Jasper alone. I will say this though, the section where, and again, I can't remember which particular book it is, but it's in the middle of the collapse when everything is falling apart. And you have Kelly driving through Indiana, and he hears Tony Katz on the radio. When you record the audiobook for that, you'll have to flip it to my name just for legal reasons. But we'll put the check in the mail for that particular cameo.
Yeah, it's all look. The books are a lot of fun, but it's kind of weird to me when people come up. Hey, you remember when Joe Zogby threw a hammer through a window in that scene? And I'm like, I have no idea.
I know. I think about that. That's one of the reasons that it's one of the reasons I like AI is that I have been able to. Someone asked me the other day about a story that I mentioned in an article that I'd written, and it was like an article 4 years ago. And so I have an AI tool that has all of my articles loaded in, and I actually asked the AI, what article are they talking about? And it's like, oh yeah, this one from like 2021. There you go. It's like, thank God.
Hey, how can you be black pill when you got AI out there? Yeah, it may kill us all if we're dumb enough to make it Skynet. But on the other hand, people were using it for incredible things, and it's going to get rid of a lot of kind of useless rote things.
I'm not going to miss the robotic voices that couldn't understand. You remember the scene from Seinfeld when Kramer impersonated the touch tone, using your touch tone keypad, like the movie phone. That's right. I'm glad that that's replaced. It's a little bit nicer. I'm okay with that.
Look, there's a lot of good things. I like the idea. Somebody's like, oh, can you send me an AI summary of your book? And I'm like, I guess I could. All right. I did one and it was okay. I was like, give me a Kurt Schlichter biography. It wasn't perfect, but it was like, they got my age and background pretty right.
Yeah, close enough.
Didn't, explain, how sexually powerful I am, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe I don't know.
I'm getting flagged. What are we? Oh, great. We've gone on so long. I've been told that the FCC clock is just not even caring at this point.
I'm sure you cut this up. You can
a little bit.
You'd be surprised. Full surgery on it.
No, you'd be surprised. The live stream people really do enjoy just watching us sit here and cackle. I think they want me to start a segment called Crotchety Old Men, so I'm going to apologize on behalf of them for you here. Sorry about that.
I thought we were, hey, dummies, go read something.
I know. I was
multiple segments.
I know. I wanted to call it
fits into.
Look,
I've got my AI picking them out.
See, I wanted to call it like you need to read something because we mentioned all of these articles. No one actually reads beyond the headline. It's something I think people should do. I mean, have the AI read it to you for crying out loud. But if we got sidetracked. And so, yeah, I mean, if this is just listening to Kurt make fun of the Europeans, then I'm here for it, man. You don't have to sell that to me.
Look, I think I have a weird space in the whole pundit world because I'm a really good interview because I'm always amusing, but I like to talk about whatever's interesting instead of whatever the nominal topic is.
Yeah.
So I'm either your taste or I'm not. I'm clearly not Fox's taste because Fox hasn't had me on in 6 months.
It's
Will Kane's. Will Kane's great. I love.
Will Kane's that great choice on their part.
Yeah, I did his podcast, and it was really fun because it was kind of unstructured and loose, and I got to talk about the judicial stuff. Leverage a little of that legal background, and I think his people got a lot out of it, and I think it was fun.
That's how I prefer to do interviews. I think of it like this. I like to picture my interviews or segments or whatever on my show or other shows are you're in the church foyer, either before or after the service, and you see two dudes just talking. And you walk up and you just stand there and listen to what they're talking about. That's what I want the show to be.
It's like my books. My books were my motto is all good parts. Either it's interesting or funny or exciting or you learn something. There's never any, well, Kelly Turnbull's going to go see his father and they're going to talk about how dad didn't say he loved him enough. You're never going to find that in one of my books. You will find that all over like Netflix, which is how they stretch a 4-episode show into 8 episodes.
Oh, yeah. I got to go talk to the 2nd grade teacher who once said something mean to you. That kind of garbage.
By the way, highly recommend The Pit off Max. It's kind of like an emergency room show. There's a little wokeness, and they do some trying to talk about the doctors. But, man, when they're going, hey, I need a hemoglobin stat, balloon, Foley catheter, and 50 cc's of Ringer's lactate, you're like, this is great stuff. And they had like a mass emergency one on the last episode. And it was beautiful because I'm seeing they're learning how they do stuff. They're showing the logistics. Mm-hmm. They're showing the organization. And it's like The Godfather, man. I didn't know how the mafia worked. But you watch that and you're like, oh, well, this is really interesting. So let's get more entertainment like that. Let's get some Kelly Turnbull entertainment.
I'd be up for that. I'm just up for things that are interesting to watch in general. And I was this last night. My wife was watching the reboot to How I Met Your Mother. What is it? How I Met Your Father. And I was watching a couple of scenes at the end of it just because I had to. I was sitting there in bed and she had it on the TV. So that means I'm also watching what's on the TV. And I'm looking at this and it looked so fake. Like the set didn't look real at all. The camera was way too zoomed in, and the camera angle just changed every second. I mean, it was just, now I'm over here, now I'm over here.
The old 3-camera sitcom thing.
No, it was awful, and it looked so fake, whereas some of the sitcoms, at least by the end of the early aughts, they'd lost it, but at least looked real enough to make you believe the scene taking place in front of the camera was somewhat real.
I mean, Friends would be the classic of that.
Yes, it would.
It looked, I mean, you were comfortable. I mean, it wasn't my favorite show, but it is a comfortable show. Seinfeld, of course.
Mm-hmm. Frasier. Nanny.
I think they have forgotten how to do a lot of these things. Now, being in Los Angeles, I had a lot of Hollywood friends. And I remember having a guy, we used to call him Andrew from Paramount, because we would go out into bars and he'd go, hi, I'm Andrew from Paramount.
Oh.
And he eventually became a kind of a low budget producer. I wonder what happened to him. Anyway, I once said, but he was like working in studios. And I once said, hey, and I mentioned Chinatown. And he said, I've never seen it. I said, you never seen Chinatown? Roman Polanski, Jack Nicholson, 1976, written by Robert Towne. He goes, 76? It was like 20 years ago. He looked at me like I was the idiot. That just kind of sums it up. Huh?
I'm just amazed that they don't have any big cultural phenomenon sitcoms or like shows that really capture the whole country. I think the last one they had was kind of Big Bang Theory. It was really the end, right? That was the last one.
I think that was one of the bigger ones. Look, NCIS apparently is a thing.
What do you mean?
There's like NCIS, like Los Angeles, NCIS Sydney, NCIS, kids.
They're still making them?
Yeah, there's like 50 of them.
What city are they on? NCIS Omaha. Yes.
NCIS Sydney. Like now we need some Australians. What are they doing? Kangaroo wrestling out at the Marine base? I mean, I
need to find out who left this here didgeridoo.
A dingo stole my baby.
You're saying it looks like his boomerang is boomerang. Like when it pans out.
Overrun.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, now that we've definitely lost all the viewers, by the way, I'm not cutting up any of this at all. I'm not doing any editing. I'm not doing any cutting because the live stream likes it. And as long as they like it, you know what? It's fine. So Kurt Schlichter.
We're like jazz.
Well, given my ADHD when playing jazz, that makes a lot of sense. I'll take it.
And let's just not be Spinal Tap's Jazz Odyssey.
Yoko Ono on repeat.
Speaking of Puppet Show and Semisonic. Did you see Semisonic got really mad about closing time being used?
Of course they did. I called that. So I loved Closing Time as a kid. It was one of my favorite songs when I was too young to even understand great music, and I just loved the song.
Go get the replacements. Here comes a regular. It's like Closing Time, except good.
Oh, that's
the replacements are the greatest band ever of all time.
So Semisonic got upset. I mean, of course they did. That like the White House used Closing Time for the illegal immigrant Venezuelan boot out. What did they say?
They were like, "This is not what the song's about." And some
kidding.
I stopped reading.
Don't say.
My testosterone level started dropping.
I'm looking at it right now. We did not authorize or condone. I wish I would have seen it. I would have typed thoughts and prayers underneath it, to share my thoughts and prayers.
Puppet Show and Semisonic. I think I tweeted out something like, "Look, when you're at the county fair playing Closing Time and maybe one other song, just get off stage." Because Plain White Tees has to come up and sing something.
Oh, that's fair. Although now I'm wondering what Semisonic singing "Hey There, Delilah" would sound like, and I'm bothered by it not probably sounding that much different.
The 90s were a vast wasteland of music. I mean, it just the 80s were the greatest era of music.
How did we ever let Hazel Moon or not? Oh gosh, the
Shannon Hoon.
How did we ever?
No Rain Guy.
Oh, what's the name? I can't believe it. It's not Hazel Moon. Everything's changing by the light of the moon. Is that Hootie and the Blowfish?
I don't know, but I'd literally kill myself if that came on the radio.
I don't know how we let some of these bands just like exist.
I grew up in the 80s when it was like, let's get in a record store. Oh, hey, this modern English song, Melt With You. This sounds cool. Let's rock. Oh, the English beat. Oh, that sounds good. I mean, The Clash was like literally putting out albums when I was conscious. I mean, sadly, I missed Joy Division being alive. I got New Order, but, Ian Curtis hung himself while I was still stuck in that malaise of Def Leppard and Pink Floyd.
That's fair. By the way, it's Mandolin Moon by Sister Hazel. Man, I need to drink more. Oh, goodness gracious. I don't know how we let Sister Hazel just be a band. I mean, I'm pretty sure that man had a stroke at least once per concert. And you just start mumbling into the microphone like Dave Matthews on meth.
Well, he could use meth. He's a
little bit.
Big fat funny.
Hold on, I've literally the producers in the back just like actually doing like the Trump wave. I'm gonna have to cut this one short, Franks.
We're just getting warmed up.
Hey, because they've
been going this is a half hour of quality stuff. At my normal billing rate back when I was being a lawyer, you're actually making a profit just having me.
See, that's what I like. That's the theme here. It's just the unbridled exceptionalism of a great, just goofing off conversation. Kurt Schlichter, townhall.com. Dude, it's always a blast whenever I see Lou schedules you on the show, man. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, man.
And with that conversation done, we'll call it a night. Thank you very much for sticking around for the Tony Kinnett cast and just a little bit of bonus tonus there at the end for you. We'll see you on Monday bright and early with the top news in 10, and then Tony Kinnett cast again at 7 p.m. Same great time, same great place. Have an excellent weekend and take care.